But first, herons. They're some of our largest and most spectacular birds, but worrying new evidence has revealed that they're being poisoned by man-made chemicals. Government scientists working at a heronry in Nottingham have found that fledglings with serious limb deformities have been contaminated with high levels of PCBs, toxic chemicals that were banned decades ago. Charlotte has this exclusive report.
Herons aren't just beautiful and impressive, they're at the top of the food chain. So are seen as a good indicator of the health of the environment. But here, something's gone badly wrong. For years now, some of the chicks at this heronry near Newark in Nottinghamshire have been found with deformities, and up till now, no one has really known why. This year, a team of volunteers are checking all the chicks. Over the years, around 40 chicks have been found with serious deformities.
A live one and a dead one.
It's a problem Countryfile first highlighted 4 years ago. So what are you looking for?
Well, I'm looking to see if there's any breaks in that wing. We've already looked at the legs on both chicks, and the legs seem to be... hang on, no, this one isn't. Look here. Here we've got a break, an obvious problem here. It's obviously stood up when it got big enough to take the weight, and that didn't have enough strength in the leg to be able to keep its body weight. Normally the problems with the wings don't usually happen until they get to about this, a little bit bigger than this, and when they start to flap. When they start to sort of exercise, ready for fledging, I suppose, that's when the problem usually occurs. And I suspect that that bird will not be able to flap.
No.
I think in this particular instance, my own view on it would be to put them back in and to come back in a week's time. But I've got to be honest, I don't think they'll make it.
Thank you.
Other birds may also be affected, but only the herons are being checked. And for them, these deformities can be fatal.
Well, it's death. It will not recover. It can't leave the colony. We did in fact test it with 1 or 2 birds, leaving them in the nest, and the adults kept feeding them, and ultimately got fed up and left the young to starve. And so, on some occasions they were dead in the nest, and on others they'd obviously come looking for food because the parents weren't actually bringing any, and we found them dead on the ground.
What's it like for you having to come back year after year and steel yourself for possibly a horrible experience?
I can understand people not wanting to come really, because it's not a nice thing to cope with, but I think there's an obvious problem. We haven't actually got to the bottom of it. We are getting a little way forward, which I'm eternally grateful about. I mean, I've been sort of saying there's a problem here for all these years, and it took a long time for me to get somebody to take me seriously.
It took the intervention of a government minister, Elliot Morley, to get things moving. And for the past 18 months, scientists have been testing the herons for a range of man-made chemicals. The results raise serious concerns.
We've actually been taking samples from the deformed nestlings, from undeformed nestlings, and samples of eggs, and looking to see what chemical contaminants there might be in there.
So what have you actually found?
We've looked at the moment for brominated flame retardants, which are used, flame retardants on modern sofas and that sort of thing. We've looked at things like trace metals, selenium, mercury and lead. We've looked for dioxins, and we've looked for PCBs. The only chemicals that we found that are higher in the deformed birds, suggesting there may be a link, were the PCBs, which are polychlorinated biphenyls.
PCBs were banned 30 years ago. Though levels are falling, they're still around in the environment, albeit in minute quantities. So where did the PCBs come from in the very first place?
Well, they were manufactured in the 20s, 30s, 40s. They're particularly useful in electrical fluids and transformers. But they got used in many other products at the time, paints, varnishes, even in chewing gum.
All this begs the question, where are the herons getting hold of the PCBs? Well, presumably it's in something they're eating. So where are they feeding? Well, this should have the answer. It's a mobile radar tracking station. Just imported from America, it offers the latest technology. It can lock onto birds up to 5 miles away and track their movements.
The screen behind me is the radar data for the area we're running in at Beesthorpe Nature Reserve. The grey clutter in the background is the permanent features of the environment. There's the trees, earth banks, telegraph pylons running north and south. And over the top of that in the bright red is the birds moving around in the area that we're interested in. Now the red dots show all bird movements in the area for this period. Within this there'll be grey heron movements from Beesthorpe Nature Reserve, and we're hoping to identify specifically where they're feeding, up to about 7.5 kilometres in the area.
PCBs are very long-lasting chemicals and we're surrounded by them. They're in the ground, the water, even in our bodies. But as far as we know, they're not doing us any harm.
No, I think this is a local incident which we're investigating in terms of getting a better understanding of the link here with the science, and there's no indication of any particular public concern here.
But PCBs are global. They're found in polar bears and have been linked to the viral epidemic in our own North Sea seals. This week, a new survey by WWF is expected to show that, on average, we have traces of more than 30 hazardous chemicals in our bodies. For WWF, the link between PCBs and herons is serious.
Well, WWF were horrified when we heard of these findings, as it represents yet another example of a chemical which industry told us was safe, impacting on wildlife decades after it was banned. And of course the larger concern here is that there are many more chemicals in use today which do not have adequate safety data, and we simply do not know whether these chemicals are safe for use or not. What we're saying is we need to enact a precautionary principle, as once these chemicals are released, we simply cannot put them back in the bottle.
So are you confident that in 30 years' time, our successors won't be standing here having this conversation about something that was released last year?
I certainly hope so, in terms of the actions that we're pressing for, in terms of better controls over these types of chemicals, and crucially early identification of these types of chemicals and taking them out of circulation as early stage as possible.
So far the deformities in herons are confined to this site and heronries in Yorkshire and Scotland, but that may be because few heronries are closely monitored. It'll be about a year before scientists know if it is a contaminated food source locally which is causing the problem for these birds. If it isn't, well then it could be a good few years before the mystery of these herons is finally solved.